My dear friends, I welcome you all to this daily Catholic reflection, and this is Father Velangini Thumma. And our reflection today is about the feast that we are celebrating, the feast of conversion of Saint Paul. And one of the greatest conversions in human history is what we celebrate today, Saul to Paul. This is very important. That's why in the book of Acts, the author, Saint Paul himself, repeats it 3 times in chapters 9, where he narrates it for the first time, and chapter 22 and chapter 26. And Saint Paul, he is a very distinguished human being because by birth he is a Jew, by conviction a Pharisee, by citizenship a Roman, by education a Greek, and by grace a Christian Catholic. He became a missionary, a theologian, an evangelist, a pastor, a teacher, and a preacher, all at the same time. And we hear about Saul in Acts chapter 7, verse 58, at the time of the martyrdom of Saint Stephen. We read that the people who killed, stoned Saint Stephen, they laid their robes at the feet of an young man called Saul. Therefore, Saul, or the later Paul, was present at the martyrdom of Saint Stephen. And Paul was born in Tarsus. Tarsus today, in the modern world geography, it is located on the border of Syria and Turkey. And one of the 3 greatest universities at that time was located in Tarsus. And Saul's father was a Roman by citizenship, but by religion he was a Jew and a Pharisee. Therefore, St. Paul in Philippians chapter 3, about himself, he writes that he was circumcised on the 8th day, and he was a Pharisee, and that he was a persecutor of the church. And those days, every young man had to learn a particular profession of their choice. That's why Saint Paul, as a young man, as Saul, he learned to make tent from the skin of the goats. And Saint Paul, because he was from a very learned family, he was sent to Gamaliel to learn about religion, about Judaism and the Old Testament. And those days, Gamaliel was the most learned person about religion. That's why he was called the beauty of the law. That means nobody could explain the beauty of the law better than Gamaliel. Or, in other words, the law did not look more beautiful than any time than it was interpreted and taught by Gamaliel. Therefore, Saint Paul went to the most learned person to learn about religion. Therefore, he knew what was going on. He knew about the Old Testament. He knew about Judaism, and also probably he must have heard about Jesus and the new religious movement that he initiated. And he heard, not only heard, he was present when the first martyr Stephen was martyred. Therefore, he did not argue with Saint Stephen, but he wanted to eliminate him. He wanted to put an end to his life. And that's the reason why he was present, and he approved the killing and martyrdom of Saint Stephen. That's what we hear. Therefore, St. Paul is a very learned man, and he knew about the religious atmosphere of his time. And those days, because of the persecution, many people were fleeing from Jerusalem to other parts, other countries. And in that process, so many people went to Damascus. The new religious movement called Christians, they went to Damascus. And St. Paul, Saul, the former, he heard that there are so many Christians in Damascus, and he goes to kill them, eliminate them. That's why we hear that in chapter 9 of the Acts, verse 1, Saul was breathing threats. What does it mean? See, to breathe is to live, to live. That means Saul was leaving to eliminate Christianity. Everybody in Christianity, he wanted to put an end. And with that sole purpose, he went probably with religious police, the protectors of their religion, to Damascus. And on this way, 4 things happened. First of all, divine contact. He contacted the divine because the heaven was open, and there was a light brighter than the sun that fell on Paul and other men with him. Other men could hear only the voice, some noise, but they could not understand what it was. But Paul could hear Jesus, and he could see Jesus. So the contact. And the second thing is conviction. Conviction of sin. What was the sin? Jesus said, "Why are you persecuting me?" Therefore, straight away, Jesus told Paul in the second step the sin that he committed. And the third thing, divine conversion. The conversion that took place in the life of Paul. How do we know that he was converted? Because first of all, he said, "Lord." And secondly, the first sign of true conversion is submitting to the Lord. That's why Paul is asking the Lord, "Lord, tell me what I have to do." Here we see complete submission, which is a sign of true conversion. And number 4, divine communion. Where is divine communion here? For 3 days, we read that for 3 days he lost sight. For 3 days he did not eat anything, he did not drink anything. What happened to me for 3 days? For 3 days he had divine communion. Because when he encountered the light, he became blind. This blindness is not because of the darkness that is inside. It is like the blindness that we experience when we look at the bright sun for a few minutes. We go blind. And the light is so powerful, it is so divine, that it made St. Paul blind. It's not the darkness blindness. It is the divine light blindness that St. Paul experienced. And in these 3 days that he was silent, he did not eat, he had communion with the presence of the Lord. And in these 3 days he realized that whatever he thought was precious until now looks like rubbish. And all his value system, all his beliefs have been changed in these 3 days, because he experienced the communion with the Lord. My dear friends, today as we celebrate the feast of the conversion of St. Paul, the great apostle, who by God's intervention from Saul became Paul, May He be our example and guide. And thank you for joining me every day. And if you like these reflections, kindly share with others and subscribe. God bless us all and have a beautiful day.